So I'm Visuth. I don't know if you remember me the last hour or so. So just want to very quickly go over what we're talking about. It is networking infrastructure, server database management, and how to connect your IT solution. No, I'm kidding. That's, no. In reality, what we're going to talk about today is networking infrastructure. And the reality is, it's actually all about connectivity. So that part is true. And reality of the world is we do nothing wrong. We as humans have surpassed a lot of other animals in the evolution chart, if you believe it or not, is essentially the fact that we can work together. And by working together, we're able to essentially overcome obstacles that we normally can't do alone, obviously, right? So the big piece of it is, why do we work together and how do we get there? And so a big part of it is right now, a lot of you are trying to move your career. So here, who actually wants to work in healthcare versus anything else? Okay. And people who don't want to work in anything else? All right. You all want to? Oh, I'm good. Am I not loud enough?
Yeah. The people online can't hear you.
That's unfortunate. Okay.
It's on.
All right.
Thank you.
So I have to get used to this now. All right. So for those individuals who are wanting to work in healthcare, which seems like all of you, the big thing that I want you to ask yourselves is, how do you get there? Hospitals are not standalone units. Physicians don't work by themselves. So for you, how do you get your job in the industry that you are wanting, especially here in healthcare, and thanks to Drew, looking at other segmentations of that, right? And so the piece to get you there are going to be other people. Because I can tell you the job that I have today, I did not get by applying. It was never posted on a website. I think Rachel had mentioned a little bit about there's a need when an organization posts a job. I'm actually on the other side of that, where a lot of times by the time they post it, they already filled it. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely.
So at that point, you're already late, right? It's pretty hard. I know there's some individuals in this room that have gotten jobs through networking as well. And a lot of times it is not by you applying, because at the end of the day, what you say and do may not be or may not be accurate, but it's hard to differentiate yourself. So that's why connectivity is the most important thing. So before we go into the connectivity, Steve asked a really, really great question. And as you know, I know this may hurt some people's feelings because the US did not get to go to the World Cup. This is trying to figure out, what is your goal? Because determine your goal, you may find out you need to do networking, and you're welcome to leave and have snacks. Okay? Because at a certain point, if it's not worth your time, it's not worth doing. So I ask you guys to truly ask yourselves, what is your goal? Because when you start identifying that, it'll help you identify who you want to go talk to and if you need to talk to them at all. And I'm saying that you just discount anyone, but the reality is that you only have so much time in your day. I know some of you like to play video games. Some people like to play volleyball. Some people like to just stare at the moon. I don't judge. But at the end of the day, it's really important to know what your goal is. So I'm going to start picking on, do you guys know what Nickelodeon is? I may be aging myself here. So everybody here, you guys are now susceptible to my attacks. Okay? I was on Double Dare when I was a kid way back then. So. All right. So I'm going to ask, Andrew, what is your career goal?
A CXO, so a hospital executive.
Okay.
Healthcare executive.
So it doesn't matter what letter in between.
I think there's a lot of letters. I don't want to isolate myself to just one of them.
Fantastic.
So,
okay. And how do you plan to get that?
A lot of it's networking. A lot of it's exposing myself to opportunities for advancement and continually pushing myself outside my comfort zone.
Okay.
Expand my knowledge.
I like half an hour. So with that in mind, let's say you get there. Then what?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Drew, what's the average turnover rate for a hospital executive?
20%.
20%. How many years do they last?
I think like 4
or less.
When I get there, I change healthcare.
So I'm going to give you a different perspective. This was my goal when I got my first job, is to never have to look for a job again.
Good for you.
Right? That changes fundamentally, because if you ask me today, what I'm going to do in 5 years, because Steve keeps asking me, I literally tell him I don't know. And not because of ignorance, but because there are so many options out there that I can do, and that I don't have to go apply for. I can if I really want to. But more often than not, they'll come to me. At a certain point in your career, and this is the goal that you should all try to achieve, is to get essentially jobs offered to you. You can get, at a certain level, you get emails every every week, asking you, hey, do you want this? Are you interested? You have the skill set. Hey, you have the pedigree. You have the knowledge. You have the background. That is where you want to get to. I appreciate Andy's response, and I think it's great, but it's also very limited because that only lasts you so long, and then you'll be out searching for a new job again. Sister Charity Leavenworth just replaced her CEO, who went over to Trinity Health in Ohio. Leah is now taking over, who was originally the CFO. So that turnover changes, okay? So keeping that in mind, Rachel, I believe she got her job just by asking. Am I correct?
Yeah, so he's referencing the most recent job change. So as I said, I've been mostly in consulting and then went to industry and was ready to leave industry, wanted what was next. So I called my network, right? It includes several people, but in this case, I called some executives at EY and said, hey, I'm ready to switch jobs. You know, do you have any clients with these kinds of roles? I would be interested in moving maybe to these kinds of cities. You know, what do you think? And the response was, come back. And I said, I can't come back. I don't want to come back. This is what I want to do. And ultimately, they convinced me to come back. But that, I mean, to your point, you do get to a point where the landscape is different than when you're applying for your first job.
Steve, did you apply for your current job?
I don't know that I'm employable.
Drew?
I did actually.
Initially.
Old school, yeah.
And then your current role today?
They posted, oh no.
No.
Not that one.
I know his boss very, very well, actually. So, so the thing is at a certain point, your goal needs to be effectively not to have to apply for a job again. So the question is, how do you get that, right? So before I get to the answer, how many of you are going to have to apply to a job? Okay, congratulations to those who didn't raise your hand. And for those who do, the answer essentially is you have to have the opportunities and the background so that A, people can see it and they can trust you. At a certain point, Rachel had some really great points about the interview, but at a certain point, when you have to start essentially explaining your background, your qualifications, you've already lost. Because that interview is not for you to essentially go there and try to qualify yourself. At a certain point, either you have it or you don't. And you're in that meeting at that point because you have the qualifications. So to Rachel's point, 2 to 3 minutes, get it over with and move to the fit, because assume you have the sale. Assume that they're interested in you and go from there. And then look at your history. What do you need to be fulfilled? I had a dear friend from Sutter who does her M&A and acquisition for them. She wanted to go back to operations because she wanted to be more well-rounded, right? She's already working at corporate. She was going to take a step down to get well-rounded. And that confused me because there was no reason for her to, because she was already at her echelon, and what she could do was then pivot. And she was getting job offers left and right. Of course, operations wants her back. She's fantastic, but she's beyond that. And at a certain point, you guys have to realize you are good enough once you have your experience that you can go for those jobs and push forward. Because if you continue to stay or remain in jobs that you're satisfied with, that's fine. But depending on who you are, I get bored. So that's something to think about. All right. So the next question is targets. So picture the universe, and I think you'll see a theme in my slide decks that I don't really have words in them. So feel free to try to take notes, or because I can give you copies of the slide, it's just a picture. So this is a picture that I really like to use because a lot of individuals who go out in the market, this is their targets. Every single star out there, I want to do everything. CXO. That's the literally definition of that, right? I'm going to pick everything. But what I would say that's not a bad idea, but have a direction. Pick a star, pick a North Star, pick one. And then just go down that direction. Because what will happen upon your journey there, you may find there's other options that are better suited for you. And at a certain point, you can always come back. And when you realize that you have the flexibility, that's when you have true power and control. So when you go to the interview, you know, to Rachel's really great point, is that not every job is for you. And being able to be flexible and know all your opportunities that Drew kind of laid out allows you to have power. So when you go into that interview, you have confidence. And when that confidence is derived from the fact that you have options, that it doesn't have to be this. So that's something I'd like you to think about, all right? So with your targets, don't be afraid to plant something because it can change. Things change a lot of times. Steve started a bunch of different companies that have all changed, and that's okay. I started out wanting to work in academic medicine. I was at Johns Hopkins. I was super excited. I left 7 months in the middle of my fellowship. right? Because I got a better job offer, paid 3 times more to work at the Department of Defense than offices across the world, right? Which one sounds more interesting? And at a certain point, you look at it, I evaluate my options. If I stayed at Johns Hopkins, it was taking me 10 years to become a director level role where the Department of Defense was offering it to me today. So keep that in mind. Your directions can change, your goal can still be there, but there's a lot of different ways to get there, all right? So with that in mind, one of the things I kind of want to ask you about is to look at your experiences and try to figure out what you have in there that you can really proclaim as important, as unique, and give you the ability to go forward. Because right away, I looked at Rachel's background, and we're in the same field, actually, in the world of transformation work, and I didn't have to really explain much. I think just from us talking, she knew we've been in that space, right? And Steve and I, we met playing volleyball somewhere. Okay, and we clicked randomly because I happened to be able to talk facilities. I built hospitals for years, and it resonated. So having those words, having those abilities and experience to talk that language will allow you to bridge those gaps. All right. So moving on from there. So brace yourselves.
Wow.
Okay. This is talking about trust and value, and I'm gonna need some of your help here. So part of this is stranger danger, but more specifically, Nathan, would you mind standing up for a second? And Darren. All right, Darren, how much do you want to make roughly your first job? Doesn't matter. Pick something. $100,000. Okay, great. Nathan, do you know Darren? I don't. Okay, Darren, are you a hard worker?
Yes.
He's a hard worker. Darren, are you willing to put your job and your name on the line to hire Darren for $100,000 right now?
No.
Right? That is essentially what the person who's going to be hiring you. You can sit down now, I apologize. That is essentially the person who is essentially going to be hiring you has to make that bet. That is probably one of the hardest bets you'll have to do en masse when you have to hire your team that Steve talked about, right? So, and let me ask you this. All right, let me pick somebody else. Ashley, are you a hard worker?
Yes.
Great. Paul, are you a hard worker? All right. Everybody's a hard worker. Do you believe it? Everybody's resume tells them they're a hard worker and they're the best at everything, right? That's the free candy. If I'm wrong, think about it. When someone tells you that they're good at something, sure, you can believe it until they show you the goods, right? So a lot of times in these interviews, these situations, you have to be able to demonstrate those abilities. And at the end of the day, you can't trust strangers that tell you they have free candy because a lot of times it can be really dangerous for you. And then when you start pretending that you're interested and you're all these things that you aren't, you get back into jobs that you actually aren't a good fit for, and then you fail. All right? So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think the most important thing for your first job is?
Get to know your staff.
Say that?
Get to know your staff.
Vicente, I like that. Yeah, perfect. Get to know your staff. Yeah. No, next. I wish I had the wrong posting. That was wonderful.
Communication.
Communication? No.
Be a good fit.
No.
Integrity.
No. That's actually not that important either. But I'm teasing you. No. The reality is the most.
The question is your first job, not your 5th job, not your 10th job, your first job.
Your first job. Especially
So
in
how
the
about
industry.
being able to do the job you were hired for?
Actually, most people don't know how to do the job.
Okay.
I don't want to do my current job, actually. I just pick up as I go. Yes.
Be a humble learner.
No.
I'm wrong too.
Okay. So, yes.
I mean, the odds.
Show up.
That's relatively important, but you can actually slide on that too. The most important first thing in your job that you need to look for more than anything else is your boss.
Is what?
Is your boss. Who is your direct supervisor? So you're thinking, oh my God, that's silly. I can see it in your face.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking that's the person that hired you typically.
Correct.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will make a bad hire because they don't actually know what you're doing. And so they try to go on the reads because they're going on free candy friends. So think about this. Who determines your performance? Who determines if you're doing a good job or not? Who determines you get to not come in today? Okay. So you guys see a pattern in this? So if you do something wrong that may be integrity question-wise, right? Who's going to let you slide on that? Yeah. Your boss is going to do that. And so let's say your boss doesn't like you. What's going to happen in about 6 months?
Well,
You're done. Yeah. And it's your first job. So you look for your second job, right? And you have 6 months of experience. What happens?
They're gonna wanna know why you left.
And they're gonna wanna know, and they're gonna ask for a reference, aren't they? Because you only have 6 months of some experience, relevant experience. So you're in trouble, right? So we're gonna try this one more time. So who's the most important thing in your job? Okay, so the most important thing to look for is making sure that you have someone who's gonna support you in your goals, because that boss will A, help you get your promotion, right? Will help you, if any issues, will teach you the job. Because if that person and individual is not willing to do it, you're in a lot of trouble, right? A lot of us go into positions and roles that we don't know all the details, because just because it says, I don't know, operations, doesn't mean you might be doing operations. You know, sometimes someone starts out as a secretary and they become chief operating officer because they've been there for 20 years. We've seen that 1,000 times, right? So that's why it's important that your boss is the most important person in your career, because that first one will set you on the goal to give you your first recommendation and your first referral on, and if your first network. So that's something who knows firsthand, who knows what you do. So getting away from the free candy, the idea is find someone who can actually demonstrate and trust you and know that this isn't fake. All right? Just avoid stranger danger. That's, I guess, if you're gonna take anything else from tonight, that's what I want. All right? So next, let's talk about vegetables for a second. Organic and inorganic. And we're still trying to do. So we have organic. It's natural, free range, and everybody knows about organic vegetables, right? Everybody knows about inorganic vegetables. So this concept actually fits on your networking situation as well. So think about it. So this situation here is organic. It's when you meet because of other people who know you, they trust you, you're friends, it's easy to go to a happy hour and you meet. It's organic, it feels, it's not forced. Then you have the inorganic, where you're doing cold calls, you're going out to random speakers at the end of events and chit-chatting with them about how great their talk was and trying to grab on any kind of nugget to get them to bite, right? Well, that's inorganic. And so the other one is essentially, I'm going to use some analogies, is your cold approach at the bar. So if you're going to go on a date, this is how you have to go up to someone and try to convince them that you're worth getting to know. The organic is, no, your friends are going to help you out, right? It really is. And so that's what networking is. It's really a form of dating. It's a weird way to think about it, but essentially you are going to go meet a stranger. This just happens to take out the gender argument with it. And you start thinking about the idea of, hey, I want you to get to know me. And what is your incentive to? That's something to think about. Okay? So with that in mind, as you go through that, you want to think about different ways that you can make this process easier. Because as you can see, Kristen Bell here is not interested in Robin, who I believe is the guy from Freaks and Geeks. So keeping that in mind is how can you create organic situations where you can meet individuals that are part of your target that you want to meet? Does anybody have any ideas? Yes, ma'am.
Find common interest networks.
Does that work with you? Okay, I think most of the time I'm it's like everybody's gonna find something to talk to me about, right? Anybody else have any ideas? Well, this is a cumulative class, so it's gonna be comprehensive. So Drew showed us how to do a value chain, right? So we're gonna go through one very, very quickly on the board here. And I'm going to look for a volunteer. Yes. What would you like to do?
I'm doing what I like to do already.
What's that?
I'm going to be starting as a faculty in this program, and then I also work for an international NGO working on global public health.
That's incredible. So let me ask you, who do you want to meet in that to help advance what you're doing?
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's perfect. We're gonna go there. All right. So Bill Gates. Let's go through that. Okay. What does Bill Gates like to do? What do you know him about? Know him as? What research do you find online? That's the things you can start doing and start pulling it apart, right? So we know Bill Gates has a foundation. He doesn't work anymore because of obvious reasons, right?
That's not true. He works a lot at the foundation.
Right, his foundation, yeah. Right? He's at his foundation. And where does he live?
Washington.
He lives in Seattle, right with right, by Microsoft. Because he has a huge house in the pool with speakers in it. So sorry, you're gonna get a chance to take the tour. Anyways, so with that in mind, let's just start here, right? Looking at the value chain, you have this foundation and you have to be in Redwood, Washington. So what is the likelihood of you meeting him here in Denver? Fairly limited, right? So how can you potentially meet Bill Gates without being too stalkerish, like, right? Because looking at this is that, do you start taking place in the foundation and doing events there where you eventually will run into him, right? That has a higher probability. You look at being in Redwood, you start, maybe, for example, maybe he really likes Whole Foods. So you just start camping out Whole Foods by his house, right?
He's dropping him in the woods, right?
Hey, you already Googled him at this point, so I mean, you're already too far ahead. So the point is that when you start looking at this, you can start mapping out what people are going to be, and then start having yourself be there and apply, right? It's different if you go there and you're pretending to be the stock boy. It's different if you're actually there and genuinely wanting to be there, okay? So this is kind of like street version. Thank you for participating. The reality is that there's a lot of different events. Let's say here locally in Denver. Colorado Healthcare and Strategy Management is a perfect example. What we do today is we connect executives in healthcare for talks and education once a month on some Friday morning with breakfast. So in that situation, our board members come to these events and they start meeting basically incredible individuals all throughout the healthcare community, from insurance, the hospitals, and whatnot. Right? That's the reason why they do it. And when they come, they get an opportunity to meet where it's natural, it's organic. It's, hey, I'm on the board. This is what I do. And they can start bridging a conversation that is not so lamented around the idea, I need something from you, right? Because the last thing you ever want is to want to date with someone who's needy, right? Right? I mean, maybe I'm different, but but at the end of the day, if you look at it, is that it's got to be the same both ways. Because they don't want to go out with someone who's also needy. Right? Because that's the worst feeling in the world, is when you know someone wants to be with you only because they want something out of you. That's not you. So, with that in mind, just keep in mind that some of the dating principles kind of follow. But the stalking thing, on the other hand, just understand why I'm doing that for professionally.
Looked at it in a weird moment, sorry.
Okay. So within that in mind, I'm going to give you complete opposite advice from the greatest philosophers of the 1990s. I'm going to ask you to chase the waterfalls, right? Because a lot of times you guys are sticking in kind of the lakes and rivers you're used to. Yeah, I went there. So with that in mind, your network is never going to grow if you stay in those areas. You have to expand and go chasing those waterfalls. If Bill Gates is your goal, it's got to be, I'm going to have to go out to Redwood and take my shot. I'm going to have to join the foundation and do some events and spend my time doing those things. Chisholm, we spend our time hosting and putting on events so that we have the opportunity to network and meet individuals of just incredible caliber. And so with that in mind, it's making it organic and making it easy, but you have to get out of your comfort zone. And if you don't have experiences, this is the way to get them. This is the way that you can demonstrate your value without having the experience and show that, hey, I actually have other skill sets and I'm actually a great fit. And you know what? You can teach me the skills. That's how it often happens, is that we don't come in knowing what our jobs are. So with that in mind, I will move on because I want to make sure we're starting up. So the question is, how do you put a ring on it? I'm very culturally relevant because I'm very old there. How do you seal the deal? So you've gone on the date, you've met, and now you want to take this to a longer term commitment so that you eventually can basically mine something out of the relationship, right? So it's got to be a two-way street, however. So the first thing is building rapport. Read this book. I'm not going to summarize it because you should read it. And me trying to summarize would not do it any justice whatsoever. It is a fantastic book that pretty much has lasted through the ages and is recommended by every single MBA program, period. All right, moving on. So this is from Ann Landers, also linking back to the dating thing. So going back to it is being interested is much, much more important than being interested, right? It doesn't matter how interested you are because I literally don't care most of the time, right? I think most of you have been on dates where it's like this, where I'm literally just speaking at people. And instead, the focus really has to be being interested in them. And not about just what they do in job, because that's just one identity. There's a lot of different roles and facets that you can connect on that you may not have the expertise on. Because you may find out that you may connect on mountain biking. I am surprised how many hospital executives are mountain bikers. It blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. How many are just cyclists? Crazy. Two of my dear friends that I have met randomly were huge volleyball players. And we've had conversations about that and built rapport. And we've met each other for 3 minutes. And we haven't barely talked about work, but they have become long relationships over time, right? And there's a lot of different ways to do that just by listening, right? So here are the few things that I would recommend for when you build a relationship is being generous. And this is what specifically means is give first, right? And it doesn't always pay off, and that's okay, because the universe will balance it one way or the other, or you'll die, either way. So be active. This is being involved in different organizations, different areas, different foundations, so that you have the opportunity, because she may not need Bill. What if you met Belinda? Would that be okay?
Yeah, that would actually be better.
See, right there. So the point is just be active, because you don't know who you're running into. I met Donna Lynn, who is now running for the state of Colorado governor. She's the previous CEO of Kaiser, right? And that's not meant to be a name drop, right? The idea specifically was around the fact I met her through a milk farm or milk ranch out in California, because the CEO of that ranch just happened to be best friends with her as kids. And that's how I got my introduction. It was very random, right? You don't know, so be active, meet people, right? And everybody is going to be interested, one way or the other. If you're interested in them, you're always going to be interested. So be committed. This is where your point of showing up comes, is, oh.
Keep going, I'm sorry.
No, please take a seat. I don't want you guys to stand. Be comfortable. I'm on that portion now. But at the end of the day, you want to be committed, because at the end of the day, if you can't show up, your integrity is going to be questioned. You know, I had a dear friend who had an issue with commitment, and we had a conversation about it. But there's nothing more disrespectful to someone's time than not respecting your commitments. That your word is your bond, especially if nothing else to show them that, because in today's age of society, your ability to maintain your integrity is very, very, very important. I was teasing earlier, by the way. So, be sincere. This is where you, when you talk to someone, you legitimately want to get to know them. Just like our dating conversation earlier, when you want to date and you're going to be sincere the entire time, that's not a good date, is it? So the reality is, being sincere, genuinely wanting to know someone, will help you bridge that gap to get to rapport. And then you want to be persistent. This is to Steve's point. It's not easy. You know, meeting Melinda, she's going to have 45,000 people want to talk to her. You're going to have to keep trying and keep waiting that line, even though you may not get there. And then be curious. And honestly, sincerely be curious. Know things about them outside of their work, because they're people too. And at a certain point, you guys want to talk about work all day after you're done? You've had a few drinks now, you're trying to remember math? Yeah, I'm Asian now, I don't want to do that. So, keeping that in mind, think about this. What does your customer really want? Because that's really hard. And look at how you can add value. And the question that you're probably asking is, well, you know, who I am today, how do I add value? Because I can tell you today, none of you probably have the depth or insight to give Rachel any advice on how to solve her healthcare problem, right? You may be innovative, you may be wonderful, I appreciate that, but the level of knowledge and expertise is going to be really, really hard. And I say this is because there are so many factors and things that you don't know just from a random conversation to be able to predict what the problems are. Right? Some of you may have a wonderful experience, and that's great, but the circumstances are not defined. So it's really hard to try to hit that point. A lot of BuzzFeed stuff, I know a lot of you probably use BuzzFeed for information. It's not always correct, because the people who are working there work at a lower level. You guys want to be executives? Think about it. It's going to be a very, very different conversation. So here are a few pointers on how to add value to someone's life that you may not have professionally speaking. Right? Number one. A lot of executives have kids. And for most of you, depending on your age, you guys have just done something that their kids are probably about to do. What do you think that is? There.
Graduate.
Before that.
Go to school.
About to go to school. So what do you think is the hardest thing for a parent with an 18-year-old to do?
Let it go.
What's that?
Let him go.
No. It's making sure their kids get into college, isn't it? They have to get out of the house before they have that problem. Right? So the idea is that you just all applied to school to come here. You know what that process looks like. You know different schools you looked at. That's where you can add value. You've done the research. You can offer that, and that costs you how much? Yeah.
Zero.
Costs you nothing. You've already done the work, right? So that's one. Number two, based on the network you have, what's the thing that you can do is use that as momentum to carry you forward. So you can use your network to introduce other people that might be relevant to them. And that is actually huge. As you have your LinkedIn profiles and whatnot, offer it to other individuals. They may never take you up on it, and that's okay. But the fact that you offer it is a step forward than most people will ever do, right? Always try to give first. And keeping that in mind, those are all low-cost things that you can give people without having to do anything like that, right? One of the things that we talked about recently was the fact that a lot of CEOs like cycling, right? Who here cycles? Perfect. Who here has access to the internet? Okay, I'm worried about some of you, but with that in mind, who knows how to search cycling on the internet? Okay, if you put those two things together, you are now an expert on cycling. Okay, so you can start sending interesting articles to those individuals to maintain the conversation and things that are maybe of interest. If they've read it already, you might get oh, I already read this. Great, what did you think? Right? Or, oh, I didn't see this. Thank you for sharing with me. And guess what? Now you have a follow-up opportunity. And that's how you can start adding value without having to be related to work. And you know what? What if you came out with a friend instead of a network contact? Is that okay? That would be okay too, because your friend's going to help you way more than some network contact. All right? So that's why you look at what the customer really wants. So get to know them. Ask them about their hobbies, about their lives, about their families, because it'll help you understand them and appreciate them. Right? So this is a slide that I hope none of you have ever seen. Right? This is something the bank will send you if you have insufficient funds. Every relationship, and this is an analogy I am stealing from my dear friend Steve, which is about bank withdrawals. At a certain point, you have to have deposits first before you take withdrawals. And this is why I talked about giving before taking. If you are going for an ask, how many of you have ever walked into a bank and asked for money? If you like being laughed at, that's a great way to do it, right? But reality is, you have to start giving first and making those deposits. With enough deposits, then you can make a withdrawal. And that is, at that point, this is what you get to. This is a movie, by the way. Again, going back to Deadpool and Blindside Lady. And so, with that in mind, oh, I'm well aware. I'm just thinking of films.
Miscongeniality.
Better, perfect. So with that in mind, the question is, how do I make the ask, right? So I'm gonna ask, Ashley, will you marry me? I get no most of the time. But the reason why is that you get a no because you've not built the rapport, you've not built the relationship. You can't expect a first date proposal without any work behind it. So that's exactly the same method. That's why I made the analogy to dating, because that entire process is exactly that, right? Without the physicality portion. So be careful. So with that in mind, how do you lock it down? So one of the easiest questions that you can ask that costs you literally nothing is, will you be my mentor? How many mentors can you have? Absolutely, right? And it comes down to you to figure out how to manage and maintain that. So I want you to take a look at these. These are all great mentors to their specific hero, right? And again, actually movie references. But the idea is very specifically is everybody can be your mentor. To Steve's point, his world is filled with individuals who can teach him something, right? And they may not be the smartest in this area, but at the end of the day, they have something to teach him. And that's a humbling position to be in. Because when you're humble and sincere, amazing things happen. And I ask you to think about this is that every individual that you meet, that you feel they can learn something, qualify them, and then ask them to potentially be your mentor after you've gone through the dating phase. Because one of the big things is why we looked at that process. You may find out you don't actually like what they stand for. You don't like what they do. Because it's an interview both ways. Okay. So keeping that in mind, you guys can movie references later. But essentially, I want you to take it. Oh, my PC is running low. That's okay. We're almost done. So here's the questions to ask when you interact with someone. And I'm not giving you the secret sauce of when to ask them. This is something that you'll have to develop yourself or talk more in experiment. When I ask you, I urge you not to believe anything any of us say. And I say that because I want you to test it. Because if you can't test what we say, it's fake news at the end of the day. Right? Because if you don't believe us, that's fine. But take it, try it before you discount it. Please try it before you accept it as true. Because at the end of the day, we're not here to try to convince you this is what works for us. Because to Steve's point, everybody's an exception one way or the other. And so I ask you, here are the few things that I like to ask that you are welcome to use and try at different points and see what works better for you. Right? And I'm not going to read this because I know you're all literate because we're all sitting here at the University of Denver because I know Bob would not let you in the program otherwise. So, and then one more slide. So in summary, I'd like you to think a few things for as you reach new heights. We talked about IT infrastructure for the last half an hour or so, which is why are you networking? Because if you don't know why you're doing it, don't be doing it. Number two, what do you actually want? Because this is where a lot of people struggle is that they cannot identify what they want. A lot of nurses go into nursing because they want to help people. They realize what they mean by helping people is customer service and not actually helping people. They get peed on and they get upset. Okay? So you go on from there. What are your targets? When you identify your targets, that will help you better navigate your path and direction you want to go and plan for your success. And then from there, where do you meet them? I think we went through that here. Where do you meet them, right? Drew and I are part of Colorado Healthcare Strategy Management. We've met incredible people. We are open to, expanding that for those who are interested in that place of it. But at the end of the day, it's got to be down to what you want to do. There's a lot of vehicles and opportunities. There's hundreds of organizations, but map them out. Look at what makes sense. See what kind of events they have. Because if there are events with people that you don't care about in the IT space, you really want to be there. No, I may look Asian, but I don't have a computer all day. So with that in mind, what can you do for them is the most important question that you need to know. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to do anything for free, right? That's straight out fact. And on top of that, is what you can do for them is going to be the most important question because the other ones don't matter as much because if you just help someone, that's going to make the world a better place. So with that said, I will launch off the Q&A. How much time do we have?
We are at 7:42.
Perfect.
Before you do that,
Okay.
did we enjoy this?